Today, I'm going to give you my entire content creation for social media marketing plan. This is literally behind the scenes. I'm giving you my specific workflow. So if you want to make your content process easier, you're going to want to watch this video. Hey guys, what's going on? Uriel Kane, CEO and founder of Healthpreneur. I'm excited to share this with you. I've actually never shared this publicly before, and just a bit of context of why you might enjoy this. I've been online since 2005, which is longer than most gurus have been alive. And my first business, which was in the health and fitness space, was mostly built on content. So for the first 10 years of that business, we had a really big content machine, grew our YouTube channel to 300,000 subscribers. Our blog got to 1.4 million visitors per month, and that allowed us to build a very large health empire that I later sold. When I started Healthpreneur, the current company that I run 7 years ago, we didn't do any content. We focused on paid acquisition because that's what we knew how to do very well at the time, and it allowed us to scale very quickly. However, as you may or may not know from my videos, I'm a huge proponent of content marketing, but it can be a massive time suck if you don't know what you're doing, you put out shitty content, or you don't have a good process for streamlining it. So I want to share with you what we're doing behind the scenes. And, as I've shared in previous videos, we have kind of gone through peaks and troughs and ebbs and flows of really figuring out what's going to work best for us. We've had people in the content manager position, we have let them go. We've had processes that we've blown up that weren't efficient. So what I'm going to share with you right now is what I personally am doing to manage our content. And yes, I run an 8-figure business and I run my own content. Now, I want to share with you how I do that and why it's important. So I'm going to actually go over to the computer in just a second to walk you through some of the behind the scenes tools and processes we use. But I just want to give you really quickly a high level understanding of how our content machine works. So right now, based on when you're watching this video, at least when it's shot, we don't have the hugest online following from a content perspective, and that's fine, right? We serve a very specific niche, health experts growing their business online. So right away, it's not like weight loss and obviously a huge market, but nonetheless, our goal is not to play to likes, followers, and subscribers. Our goal is to put out great content that over time will find its way into the right people's hands. So for us, and for me, I think of this like I'm the cow. I'm the cow in the business that produces the milk. And I'm going to give credit to my buddy Dean Jackson, who came up with this analogy. You most likely as the creator are the cow in the business. You create the milk. What we don't want to spend a huge amount of time with though, is once we've created the milk, putting it all over the place. And this is where a lot of people start running into problems with like how much time they're spending on social. And I get this. Listen, I've outsourced a lot of this stuff. I've delegated a bunch of this stuff. And if you have the wrong people in place and the wrong processes in place, it's going to cause you so much more frustration than what I'm about to show you. But the first thing to understand is that you are the cow in your business. And I say that with the best possible connotation in mind. You have all the ideas, and that's the magic in your content, is the ideas that you want to share. For me, it starts with long form content on YouTube. Pretty much 95% of our content is shot in this format. I'm not a huge fan of shooting native vertical content just for the sake of putting it up into Reels. I actually don't like shooting short, superficial, tactical content just for the sake of like playing that game. So for us, most of our content starts in long form. I'm going to show you how we kind of come up with that. And then from there, we break it down into specific nuggets that can be used as reels that we can then put up on Instagram specifically, our Facebook page, and YouTube Shorts. I want to mention one thing. You don't have to be everywhere all the time. And I think the thinking that you do is very overwhelming. For instance, we posted up until a few weeks ago 3 times a day on TikTok. And how much did that generate business for us over the course of a year? Nothing. We had a couple of videos that went to 400,000, 900,000 views. How much did it bring into our business? Absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, as of this shooting with just over 11,000 subscribers on YouTube, we have generated 7 figures in revenue from a very small following on YouTube. So you really got to pick and choose your battles, because the more places you think you have to post, if you're following everyone's advice, you're just going to exhaust yourself. So for us, it's YouTube and Instagram. That's it. I mean, shorts in our Facebook page are ancillary, but I'll show you how we publish to those at the click of a button instead of complicating our life. So for us, top of everything, waterfalls down from our YouTube long form content. We take clips out of this type of video, turn it into reels. those reels go up in his shorts, Instagram, and Facebook page at the click of a button. So without any further ado, let's go to the computer. Let me walk you through exactly what this workflow looks like. All right, so let's start off on the good old YouTube. And for us, YouTube initially started off as a public Dropbox. We had no rhyme or reason to what we were doing, and it was a depository for videos. And then about 2 years ago, we said, you know what, why don't we actually focus on this more strategically, because this is a major opportunity. And so I want to walk you through what our workflow looks like. Now, obviously, different people have different workflows. People use Asana, Trello, whatever, but we found this spreadsheet to work extremely well for us in terms of managing workflow. So I'll just kind of walk you through what it looks like. Now, in our case, long form content, as you know, goes out on Wednesdays and Sundays. Wednesdays are hashtag winning series, which is more of like coaching, no bullshit, straight talk. And then the Sunday videos like this one are a bit more tactical and how-to-ish, if you will. So that's kind of how we organize this. We have Wednesdays, Sundays, and so forth. We identify a keyword phrase, which is essentially really important for YouTube. If you don't understand how to do SEO and how to search for the right keywords to create content around, you could end up spending a lot of time creating content that will never get found. And this in and of itself is a whole other ballgame, which I might create some content around. If you guys want, let me know in the comments. But we identify a keyword that makes sense for us to create content around. It makes sense for us in the sense that it's a search phrase that we feel our avatar would be searching in or searching for on YouTube. And then second, we can actually get ranked for it more easily. Like, it's not massively competitive like health or business. Like, those are very broad, general keyword phrases. So we really want to narrow down to what's called a long tail keyword phrase, which is something that you are more likely to get ranked for. There's probably less search, but there's also less competition. And if you optimize the video for that, you have a greater likelihood of success. So what we do is we identify the keyword phrase based on some basic research. From there, we create a working title. Typically, we'll have 2 or so headlines that we'll test or choose one. And then from there, what I go to, like where I work, so this is where me, like Yuri, the person creating the content, spends a bit of time, is I have this document. You can see here, it says YouTube content videos, brainstorming, and storyboarding. And here is where I work through what this, like, for instance, for this video, Facebook for advertising, is it still the best place to find clients in 2024? So I start to really storyboard and map out what that outline for the video is going to look like. Now, the cool thing is, because I've done this for so long, is I've actually created frameworks and structures that we then use as prompts to allow AI to facilitate in this process. So check this out. So we have an internal document called the Healthpreneur AI Content Genie. And this helps us with everything from content idea generation to video outlines, to writing captions, to finding keywords, to ad frameworks, to social media post frameworks. Every single thing that we do from a content perspective, we have a framework built around, and then we've optimized it to work with ChatGPT so that when I'm looking for instance, if I go to a video outline and talking points, I can pop this into ChatGPT along with the topic of the video. And all of a sudden, what I'm getting in return is an 80% fleshed out video outline based on the specific different outlines or headings that we want to hit in the video. And then I look at that content and say, well, thank you, ChatGPT, but actually I don't agree with those 2 things. So swap it with this and this. And then it's like, cool. And then what I get is a working outline that I can work from. And then I look through that outline and I clean things up and I'm like, cool, I think the hook can be stronger. Or let me clean it up on my own. Let me put in a story here, metaphor here, something that's going to be easy to understand. I don't really agree with this one thing. Let me change it to that. But if you look at a lot of my storyboarding here, there's a very similar structure. And this is because I've created content now for 20 years and I've shot tens of thousands of videos. And this has allowed me to create this type of structure that for me has been very useful to create videos like this. So that's where it all starts. So we storyboard things out. We typically have weeks in advance, right? We're mapped out weeks in advance and ideally months in some cases. So once the video is shot, I'm shooting it like on this camera right here. And what will happen is I upload that to a Dropbox folder. All of our content lives in a Dropbox folder. And this is an example of the raw unedited video. So if I click on this, you'll see that I'm sitting down from a computer. There's no edits here, nothing, right? Then our video editor, who's amazing at doing this stuff, he then works his magic. And then he puts the final edited link into a separate Dropbox folder that is linked up right here in the sheets. And then you can see here, what if I told you that being lazy was actually the secret So this one has no edits, but I'll show you an example of a video that does obviously have a few more edits. So for instance, this one here, we had more of a client or a prospect type of consult. So there was a camera, right? There was a Zoom call, and there was a separate intro. So you can see there's 3 separate files that are linked to a Dropbox folder. So our video editor then takes that and then turns it into this beautiful finished product that looks like this. Are you interested in finding the right target audience who are willing to pay you for your... Boom. So yeah, I mean, does it help to have someone who can edit stuff like that? For sure. Because what it allows me to do as the cow in the business is just talk and work my thing. And then I can upload the assets to the Dropbox folder. Our video editor, Irvin, can take it and bring it all together. And that just took a little bit of time to figure out what type of style, like yeses and nos, and making sure the intro is really important. That hook, that first 5 to 10 seconds is really important. So that's our process, right? Thumbnail design, tag identification. There's a couple different things to optimize and so forth. But for us, a lot of our workflow lives in Dropbox. So I'll just give you an example of what that taxonomy looks like. And again, I've never really shared this publicly, so hopefully you're enjoying this. So for us, if you're using Google Drive, that's up to you. But you can see here that, for instance, like for YouTube videos, we have a couple subfolders. We've got a couple different topics, intros, outros, a thumbnails folder, right? Base per month, right? So we have 2024 thumbnails organized by month, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So the key thing, here's the key thing with when it comes to content and this process is you have to be ruthlessly organized, because if you're not organized, you will go crazy. And I did. And that's why I basically let go of our content team, because I was not happy with the process that they were running. And it was overly complicated. There was too much activity for very, very little output. That's what happens on the YouTube front. So all things for us start high-level, long-form content on YouTube. Now, from there, we understand that if we have a 10 to 20-minute video on YouTube, there's probably a few clips in that video that can stand on their own 2 feet and be useful in a vertical format that can be used as an Instagram Reel or YouTube Short, etc. So what does that process look like? So let me show you. So what we do here is we have a separate folder, and I'll just quickly find this for you. So we have a folder called Reels. And these Reels, you'll see that they're different categories: objections, FAQ, invisible threat, missing link, blah, blah, blah. We have about 10 different categories or buckets. These buckets actually fall underneath a system we teach our clients called the Social Authority Selling System. It's a very specific process we personally use in our business, and we help our clients use in their businesses for their organic and social content, so that they're not just posting the same boring how-to type of content all the time. You want to have a good combination of personal connection pieces, useful tactical stuff, opinion-based type of content. And for us, this is how we organize our Reels, because we have realized that on Instagram, Reels do better for us than most of the other stuff that we post. So it's not 100% Reels, but it's about 90 to 95% of it. So let's say that we look at objections as an example. And here, we have a separate video editor who then takes this long, like this video right here, and he'll chop out a few, maybe 2, 3 under 60-second segments that in and of themselves are good enough to live and add value. So for instance, let's have a look at what one of these looks like. So this, you can see here is, well, I don't know if you can tell, but it was taken from a long form piece of content.
No. You don't understand how winners think. Novak Djokovic.
All right, so this one here, this video will not see the light of day, right? I will provide feedback to our video editor. And the reason it's not going to see the light of day is for one really important reason. There's 2 things that I look at when we look at Reels or short form vertical content. Number one, the first 5 seconds are everything. If you want people to stick around, and this goes also for your YouTube stuff too, if you're doing YouTube, the first couple seconds of your videos are everything. In a few seconds, you have to have a powerful statement or a powerful question that's going to hook someone in. And then the rest of the video needs to stand on its own 2 feet to provide value and without additional context around that video. So right away, let's look at this one here as an example.
So let's say we're standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon.
All right, so we're standing on the edge of the Grand Canyon. Interesting curiosity piece. Let me see what this is.
Everything you want is on the other side. Okay, so we're like 100 feet away. It's like, man, everything I just talked about and I want is over there. But the only way to...
Now you can see here, this is actually from a coaching call I did with my clients. So we took out a clip from that coaching call that's going to stand on its own 2 feet. I'm just going to let this play for a second.
The problem is that we're scared of heights, and the bridge that we're about to walk across is one of those like wooden bridges, Indiana Jones type of things. And you look at the bridge and like,
yeah, I swear in some of my contents, that's the way it goes.
right? What if this doesn't work? You have a choice to make. You can say, is this a 10 out of 10 must? Because if it is, then courage is not that big of a deal. You'll do it.
All right, so that video, this is actually an edited version of the same video where the next 12 seconds after this had nothing to do and no value add to this video, and it would have actually confused the viewer. So I went back to Pitar and I said, hey man, clean this up, remove this, it doesn't make sense. So part of this process is be able to have someone, ideally not you, who can clip out a video that stands in, 10 to 60 seconds on its own 2 feet and is very useful in and of itself. So let's look at another example here, the dip. So this one's 22 seconds. It comes from the same, or one of those videos, one of these longer form videos, and you'll see the difference of how this stands on its own.
Business is kind of an up and down roller coaster. You get to a moment where it's like, oh shit.
So right away, we're identifying business as an up and down roller coaster. For entrepreneurs, we're like, yep, that's pretty much right.
We're at the bottom, right? And what most people do at the
Now, is this gonna be the best video in the world? Probably not,
and then they
but
start something else and they go back to zero and start all over again. And then they get back into the dip and they're like, oh, it's hard. I'm gonna quit and do something else. So they keep repeating that cycle. But what winners do is when they get in the dip, they're like, I'm gonna figure this out. And they keep going. And that's eventually how they achieve success.
boom. So 22 seconds, all I did was I started the video with something very clear. The rest of the video was talking about why this thing is important. But here's the thing is that the last couple seconds were actual. Here's the difference. Here's what winners do. Winners keep going. They don't quit. They don't start back at zero. So now if someone is just randomly coming across this video, they have no idea who I am. They have no idea who we are. In 22 seconds, they're like, that was useful. Right? Now, is that going to be the world's most viewed video? Probably not. But the key is that it needs to be clear. It needs to hook people in the first couple seconds. And whether it's 20 seconds, 30, 50, 60 seconds, it needs to stand on its own 2 feet. So if no one ever heard of you and had no outside context of what this video is about, they would be like, huh, that makes sense. So once we have these vertical videos, you can see that they're organized by folder. We have 10 or so different themes. What we do next is we use a platform called Later to organize the syndication of our content. So I'll just show you what this looks like. So right now, you can see on the screen that there are different buckets at the top here. So we got connection, value, signature story, list, objection, FAQ. These are the themes per day. So right now we post once a day on Instagram. I'm not going to post more than that because it doesn't really make a difference for our business. And I think the doubling of And listen, when we had the team doing a whole bunch of stuff, we were posting 2-3 times a day. It didn't really move the needle because it's not about how often you're posting, it's about what you're posting. And the reason that I've taken the reins back over this process is because we were posting stuff I was not happy with. I was showing you some of those videos that should never have seen the light of day, and those were videos that were being put up on social media. And it's very, very important to understand that the goal is not to just post content, it's to make sure the content you post has an art, has a soul to it. The message connects to your audience and you know your audience better than anyone does. So do not outsource this too early on in your journey, because if you want to get it off your plate, and you can totally do so, but don't be upset when the results are terrible, because there's a very big difference between, oh yeah, like I can tell someone to post 1 video a day, but for them to understand which video is a good video is a different story. The ability for them to write the caption, that's a different story, right? So you have to, like, again, when you're growing your business, there's stuff you got to do. And part of, I believe, what you want to be doing as a creator, as an owner, or whether you're a health expert or just a coach or entrepreneur in general, is sharing your message. No one's going to know your message as well as you do. And honestly, this process that I'm going to show you takes me 30 minutes in the morning. So it's not overly complicated. Now, in your case, I don't know if you have existing content to work with. I do, right? We have these video reels that I use as a starting point. So that's, something to keep in mind. So what I do in the morning is I get up at 4:30, 5 o'clock every single day, 7 days a week. And one of the first things I do, and this is one of the things I recommend our clients do, is spend 30 minutes a day creating content for your audience. That can be writing an ad, writing an email, writing a social post, something to refine the skill of communication, which is very important, and also adding value to your audience. So for me not to do that is somewhat hypocritical, even though I run an 8-figure business. It's probably one of the easiest things for me to do and one of the most important things for me to do. So for instance, what I'll do is we will upload the content into the media storage thing over here on Later. And you can see at the top here, like there's Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, YouTube Shorts. Now, we don't really post to TikTok nor LinkedIn. TikTok for us doesn't really make a difference. LinkedIn, you can't post video reels, so it's just kind of a waste. We'll post on LinkedIn if it's only a picture. But for the most part, we're posting stuff that is going to be Instagram post, short, or Facebook page. All right, so anyways, let me just show you this. So right now, if I look at what's something going out tomorrow. So we have one of these videos. This is a reel. Now there are some videos here that I have shot natively to a camera vertically, okay? So these were shot with my son, who's actually a pseudo videographer and editor for us, which is nice because around the house, he can just get some candid stuff. So this video that we're looking at on the screen is actually natively filmed vertically. It was not clipped from a long form video. So again, when I say 95% of our videos are long form and that's where everything flows from, this is the 5% that doesn't. Now, the caption is really important because I believe content marketing is as much of an art as it is a science. And I'm a very process system oriented person. I love the nuances of how to make a system more efficient. But the problem with content is when it's too mechanistic, you lose the soul of the content. And this is the problem that we ran into, is that it became too much of a machine and not enough around the message. And I realized the reason it wasn't growing to the extent that we wanted it to, it was not because the lack of the process, it was because of the lack of focus on the quality of the message. And it's not to say that the content I put out there isn't good, but the ability for certain people to extract the magic out of longer, bigger pieces of content is not necessarily second nature for most people. So if you can find that person, hang on to them because it's very rare. So here's the thing, I actually don't enjoy writing that much. So what do? Well, lo and behold, we have our good old Content Genie. And so for instance, creating social captions from a reel transcripts, reel, right? So what does that even mean? Well, check this out. In Dropbox, I don't know if you knew this. Let me go here. So in Dropbox, if I click on a video, and I love that thumbnail, right? That's a good starting point. All right, so on the right-hand side here, you're gonna see a transcript. What I do is I click copy transcript. I go to my Healthpreneur AI Content Genie. I take this prompt right here, which has been refined over time to give us a good output. And then I go into ChatGPT and I throw that in there. And what happens is ChatGPT gives me a caption. Just let me find my way. It gives me a caption that is either something I'm going to use fairly closely and clean up, or it's going to be garbage and I'm just going to use it as a starting point to almost start from scratch. But either way, what I love about ChatGPT is that it lubricates the slide. It's kind of like my assistant on steroids. So instead of me looking at a blank page and not knowing what to write, I have a framework and the assistance of ChatGPT to get it started. So where do these frameworks come from? Again, in our Content Genie, which again, all of our clients have access to, we have a number of different frameworks: kryptonite post, hand raised post, dog whistle post, signature story, value, list, motivation, mistake, invisible threat. Each of these types of content, which map back to these folders that I showed you, right? So each one of these folders has a specific framework, the type of content. If I'm talking about kryptonite, like one of my weaknesses, there's a framework for how that is written, not just spoken about, but when I'm writing the caption, there's a framework there that's different than the framework if I'm talking about an objection or a pure value type of post. So I take that framework and that's embedded into our AI prompt in the AI Content Genie. I take the transcript from that video, which is only a couple paragraphs because it's short, and I run it through ChatGPT. ChatGPT gives me a finished product that may or may not look like this. And I'm like, you know what? The first sentence is garbage. I'm going to rewrite it to make it a lot more impactful, because that first sentence and a caption is everything. It's like the first couple seconds of the video. It's got to grab someone's attention and pull them in. So then this is all set to go, right? So once I'm happy with this, I'm like, cool, like this is good to go, right? Looks good. So then essentially what happens is this is going to be, if I want to post this up on YouTube Shorts, Facebook, at the click of a button, like now I can replicate that post into those platforms. And that's how at the click of a button, we can post on Instagram, YouTube Shorts, and our Facebook business page in the space of a couple seconds. So this is the process, right? Now, I just want to mention one more thing. So one thing that we are starting to do is we're starting to add covers to the reel on Instagram. So basically like a nicer thumbnail, if you will, on the video itself. And so what we've done here is for a graphic designer to know what are the words to put on the thumbnail, because that's really important, just like with a YouTube thumbnail. I've basically given her a starting point. So I'm like, cover, 5 daily habits to grow your business. So those are the words she's gonna put on the cover. And then from that, she can work her magic to create a beautiful image that as our Instagram, as we start to deploy this now, we'll start to have a better look and feel. And the only reason we're doing that, to be honest, is not because I care about making it look all pretty. It's because we have found that when we put cover images on a reel on Instagram, and what I mean by that is it's not the thumbnail from the video. Like, so this one here has no cover image. It's just pulling the image from the video. But if I scroll down, and eventually I'll just show you some examples of terrible ones from the past that we used to use that I was cringing when I saw this stuff, like these, like the number one skill to scale your business. Like that is a cover, but it looks horrible. How to attract better clients. It's a cover image, and you click on this and obviously the video plays. It's a horrible image. With that said, these videos actually had more views, more reach, more impressions. So we're like, you know what? Let's clean up the images. Let's make them look way better, more on brand with a better designer. And that's the direction we're moving in. So we'll see how that plays out over time. So the whole goal here is I wanted to create a process that was very simple for me first and foremost, that was organized, that wasn't overcomplicated, because previously there was like Google Sheets. I didn't even know stuff existed. There was a broken like Airtable and Asana. I'm like, what is going on here? And there were so many moving parts because the thing with content creation for social media or for any platform is taxonomy. It's organization. It's understanding how to organize things in such a way that works for you. So I've shown you my process, which is a combination of one Google Sheets, a few Dropbox folders, and later. Okay, that's our organizational process. And then we have a number of Google Docs that we use for the actual storage of all the captions that we write, which I'm not going to get into showing you because just for the sake of time, I don't think it's valid, but we use later as our main social media calendar. Now, all of this flows from a separate document called the Social Authority Selling System, which is essentially a monthly content plan that we follow. And I'll just quickly show you what that looks like so you have a bit of context. So this is what our monthly content plan looks like. Again, this is what we call the Social Authority Selling System. It helps you build your social authority. As a result of that, it allows you to sell, not publicly, but privately, because people are reaching out to you because your stuff is so valuable. This is an example of the plan we give to our clients. It's not exactly the same one, but for our business, this is what we use. And we organize everything in later. We try to be weeks in advance so that we're never like, what's going out tomorrow? And we can organize and streamline the process for our team a lot more effectively. So there you go. That is a behind the scenes walkthrough of how we create and organize our content, starting with long form YouTube, some native vertical stuff. But I think the most important thing, hopefully for you to see, is really just the workflow, the process. And remember, like, we don't have the largest following, but we generate a lot of business from our content. 87,000 followers on Instagram, just over 11,000 followers on YouTube. And between those two platforms, the last year alone, we generated more than $1.5 million in business, okay? And that's not even the bulk of our revenue. The bulk of our revenue comes from paid traffic. But over time, our goal is that the content that we are putting out dwarfs everything we do from a paid traffic perspective. But the thing that I'll leave you with is that it just takes time, right? Building content, building this machine, building your following takes a very long time. It took me 7 years in my first business to make my first $1 million with content alone. Okay, so I don't want you to be delusional to think that's going to happen overnight. With Healthpreneur, we made $1 million in 7 weeks because we had a paid traffic funnel that worked, right? But the best time to build content into your business is when you don't need it. I don't need any of this content to drive business for our business, right? All of this is gravy, which is also why I want it to be streamlined and not overly complicated, because it's not the primary engine of our business. But if it's the primary engine of your business and you require content and social media to actually generate clients, you got to do things properly. And you also have to lengthen the time horizon from which you think results are going to happen. Because if you're starting at zero and you have no assets, no following, no content, just buckle up and get ready for a ride. It's going to take a while. Now, if you like this type of stuff, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you're like, Gary, what are you talking about with like paid ads and so forth? Check out the next video right over here if you want to learn how to grow your coaching business. There are 3 specific pillars you need in place, whether we're talking about organic or paid. I'll show you what those are and what the back end of all that looks like. I think you'll find that video extremely helpful. Check out this next video and I'll walk you through those 3 pillars to grow a successful coaching business.